Hello, my name is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. This is video 4 in a 5-video series, My Board Game Life. And if you've watched the last videos, this video will be a little different. In the first 3 videos, I primarily focused in on board games and which board games influenced my life. In this video, I'm going to talk more about other influences, and especially how in the last 2 years since 2018, my approach to the hobby of board gaming has radically changed. So first, let me talk to you about the explosion of 2019. In 2019, I started the year with about 30 games on the shelf, and I really loved a lot of those games, and we occasionally played them. I would play games maybe once a month, twice a month with my wife or my son or friends, but we weren't avid board gamers. We liked them, but we didn't play them that often. And then something happened about halfway through the year in 2019. You could maybe blame it on Kickstarter, which I'll talk about in another video later. You could blame it on the fact that I actually had a little bit more time that summer to play some board games. Not really sure what all the causes were, but about halfway through 2019, I started playing more games and looking for more games. And I stumbled across a couple of really great opportunities to purchase a large number of games for a reasonably small amount of dollars. There was one board game cafe in the LA area that was moving and closing down their shop there, and they sold a bunch of games very, very cheaply, so I picked up a lot of games from them. There was another gentleman who was moving to Alaska and had to cut down his board game collection significantly, and so I was able to pick up a large number of games from him as well, found him through Facebook Marketplace. And so I picked up, in the second half of 2019, 60 more games. So I went from 30 to 90 in just a few months. There was a couple of problems with that. I started playing more games because I had a lot more to choose from, but I couldn't play them all, and pretty soon my shelf of shame or shelf of opportunity, whatever term you prefer, was quite large. I'll get to that a little bit later in this video. Another thing that started to change was I did begin to play more games because I had so many more to choose from, and I wanted to learn about all these new games that I had just picked up. And so in those piles of games, I would find one, learn how to play it, and play it with my wife and my son. And we just had a great time. And we started playing, instead of 1 or 2 games a month, we started playing more like 1 or 2 games a week. And then in 2020, I actually started playing them much more rapidly. In 2020, I've played already, this is May 17th today, and I've already had 173 gameplays. And in April, my wife and I took upon ourselves a little challenge just to see if we could do it because we're both teachers and our spring break was during that month. We decided to see if we could play 30 different games in April. So not just 30 gameplays, but 30 different games. And we tried to start tackling a lot of the games on that shelf of opportunity so that we could learn some new ones. And we were able to do it. We actually played 35 games in April, 35 different games. So that was a lot of fun, and in May, so far this month, I've already played 16 different games and about 37 game plays. I've played a little bit more online this month because we're in the COVID-19 lockdown still, but most of those gameplays have actually been with board games. So there was the explosion of 2019 and the rapid increase in board game playing. The next impact in the last 2 years has been board game reviewers and board game video bloggers. And while I watched Dice Tower and a few others in my last episode, I mentioned them, I really started to watch them even more. In fact, hardly a day goes by that I don't watch some YouTube video from one of these reviewers or even several of them. And I enjoy some of them from Jamie Stegmaier and others who actually create the games, but I'm going to go through a list of them that are more focused on actually reviewing games or giving you humor about board games. So here's my top 2, always my go-to, I guess, before any others. The rest aren't really ranked, but these top 2 are my standard go-tos, and I think it's true for a lot of people. The Dice Tower and Rahdo runs through. The Dice Tower started with Tom, Sam, and Z. I don't know if it started that way, but for me it did. It was Tom, Sam, and Z. Now they've got all kinds of great reviewers that I really love watching, and lots of other groups that have branched off from the Dice Tower, but I still love going to their videos. I still love watching their reviews and how they give you a little bit of an overview of the playthrough as well. Rahdo Runs Through is new for me, Richard Ham, and I hadn't really discovered him until just a few months ago. But when I discovered his videos and learned how he would do a playthrough, even with his goofs, which I find great because I make them all the time, and then also give final thoughts on most of them, that was really excellent. I really loved that, so I could learn to play the video by watching someone do it. So those two are my go-tos. But sometimes not only do I want to hear a video review, but I also maybe want to get a little laughs. And so there's quite a few that do that for me. I love watching Shut Up and Sit Down with Quinns, Matt, and Paul. No Pun Included with Elaine and Efka. John Perkis with Actual. The Brothers Murph are great. The Matthew Jude with This Game is Broken. Paula Deming, Things Get Dicey. She has some hilarious videos. Chaz Marler with Pair of Dice Paradise. A lot of great reviews, but also some great humor mixed in with those. Really entertaining. I love when those videos pop up on my list. Then there's a few other reviewers that I also really enjoy. Joel Eddy with Drive Through Games. I love his reflections about gaming and just reflections about life, but he gives great reviews as well. I like Roll for Crit. Will and Jonathan put out a lot of videos and help me know what's coming on Kickstarter and give me a lot of interest in new games that are on the horizon. Antrim House, their whole crew does kind of the same thing. What's coming on Kickstarter and reviews of games, sometimes playthroughs. Dan King, the Game Boy Geek, also does a great job. And Elaine, I'm not going to try to say her last name, but the Cardboard Rhino, I like her videos as well. Excellent production, really good content as well. So those are some other reviews that I really enjoyed and continue to enjoy. If I really want to learn how to play the game and maybe Rahdo hasn't run through it, I'll often then turn to Rodney Smith and watch it played. Another one that maybe a lot of people haven't discovered is Greg Cornell. I hope that's how you say your last name, Greg, and his Stickfamations. Really great instruction in a creative way with that sort of stop film approach. I also like Ant Lab Games and Becca Scott with her Geek and Sundry group as they play through games and explain games, and quite a few others. That's just a list to touch the surface, but those are some that I often am looking for when I'm trying to figure out how to play a new game. And I've watched lots and lots of videos in the last 2 years that really wasn't a part of my hobby with board games prior. Then in 2020, in January, I had been thinking about maybe making some of my own videos. And I was talking with my kids. We were actually back in Indonesia on a short vacation, visiting my daughter Abby and her family who lived there at the time. And I was just brainstorming with them about what kind of videos I could make and what would I call the channel. And my daughter reminded me that I was sometimes called Billy Indiana when I lived in Indonesia. And so she suggested Billy Indiana as the name of the channel. And so that's where Billy Indiana was born in January 2020. And since then, I've been putting out videos pretty slowly because it's not definitely a job for me. It's just a hobby. But I've enjoyed learning the techniques of making the videos, doing the research, creating the scripts, figuring out how to do the video editing. My son Jeff has helped me a lot with the video editing. And so I've learned a lot and I really enjoyed it. And this video is just partly because of starting that hobby in January 2020. And that's why on several of my labels, you'll see it Billy Indiana 2020, when the idea of Billy Indiana was born. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is keeping a trim collection. It exploded, my collection did, in 2019, and I started to realize, wow, you've got 40 games in this shelf of opportunity, and it felt a little shameful that I had so many games, and I knew there was no way I was going to be able to play them all. And so I started to think through, okay, which games do I really want to play? Which games am I really interested in? And which games should I get rid of? And that's when I started watching some videos from Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I really appreciate his videos. He doesn't do as many reviews. He does some and some video comparisons that I enjoy, but he gives a lot of other approaches to topics. And one of his videos on keeping a trim collection really made me think again about what I was doing. Was I a board gamer or was I a board game collector? And so I started thinking, how can I trim it down? And watching his videos and also being inspired by Jordan Schoenberger, I think is how you say his last name, from Jordan Plays Blue, I began to figure out, okay, let's get rid of some of these games and trade them in for some other games that I would really like to try. Some of the games that I got rid of were games that I did try and just didn't really enjoy. I didn't say that they would have replayability for our family. Not that they were bad games, they just didn't really fit our playing style. Other games, I just knew I was never going to get to the table. There were so many other ones that were ahead of it on the wish list. And so I started trading, and I created my first trade this month in May 2020. and completed it. In fact, I'm looking for the box of games that will be coming back to me in that trade to come in tomorrow. So a different approach. Instead of just trying to get as many games as I could, now in this last couple of months of 2020, I've started to think about how can I control my collection and make sure it's really high quality. That's all I have for this video, just a little bit of a video about my transition in board gaming in these last 2 years and how I went from being only a collector who kind of played games to someone who plays games and loves games, and also started creating video reviews like this one. Well, not really a review, but videos like this one. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. On the next video, part 5 and the last one in this series, I'll be showing you my collection and going through these games you can see on the shelf behind me. So if you're interested in that, click like and subscribe, and maybe even click on the bell so you'll get a notification when that video comes up. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is Bill, Indiana, signing out.